The new film by the Coen brothers is called Intolerable Cruelty. It is a romantic comedy marked with trademark Coen dark humor. Here is the trailer for the film.
Who the hell are you?
Howard and I are planning to marry.
Dump him.
I could have you disbarred for that.
You fascinate me.
Intolerable Cruelty.
I am pleased to have here the filmmakers Ethan and Joel Coen, and the film stars George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Welcome. It's great to see you.
Thanks.
Is this a black comedy? Is this a farce? Is this a screwball comedy? Is this what?
I wouldn't call it a black comedy. It's
It's a comedy.
Yeah, it is more like a screwball comedy because it's you know, like the classic screwball comedies were usually about marriage, and this is about divorce. But there's some marriages that happen, and you know, in between the divorces. So,
Why did you want to do this film?
You know, largely the actors, they wanted to do it. It was a script that originally, we actually wrote it or rewrote it. We're hired just as a writing job to write it several years ago with no idea of doing it ourselves. But then we found out George was interested in doing it, so that sort of, if we were interested, which, you know, in itself made us interested in doing it
you know,
ourselves.
with us, it's always if the right combination comes together. We wrote the script as Ethan said, as a writing job. But we always liked the script a lot, and when we sort of discovered that George was interested in doing it, that made us interested in making it because we just felt it was the right people with the right material.
If you were interested in doing it, why didn't you buy it for yourself?
Well, it was already done. It was already out there, and they'd actually written the draft, and then it had gone through several different hands and been rewritten, which is what usually happens. And when I talked to Universal, I said, I'm interested in that old draft that they wrote, which is sometimes hard to get back to, which is the draft that is what got everybody excited about it initially, and that was part of the trick. And getting Catherine was a big part of the trick.
Who is it you play?
I play Marilyn Rexroth.
Yes. Who is a gold digger?
Yes, but a nice gold
digger. And a
digger.
revenge artist?
Yes, and a serial divorcee. And really, it's a living for her.
It's a living for her.
It's a living. It's a business.
You got to work at something, so you might as well work at marriage and divorce.
And that's her. But I wanted to play her nice. I wanted everyone. I mean, there must be a reason why people just fall in love with her and just push the boat out that far. So I wanted to play it calm and like a hurricane.
Calm like a hurricane.
Yeah, the eye of the storm doesn't quite realize what chaos she can create.
Yeah.
And she does.
And gets her revenge.
Yes, because she meets her. You know,
and that's the movie. That's when the movie starts. When these two get together to compete.
That's what I think.
My role, my character.
What about you?
Yeah, and who is Mr. Macy? Who is Miles?
I'm just a romantic.
It's a romantic divorce. Yeah,
I can say that.
You're a nuptials
A
guy.
romantic divorce attorney.
He's what? A divorce attorney.
Divorce attorney.
Right. Yeah. He just wants to be happy, wants to find love.
Yeah, really.
And he just happens to have a perfect prenuptial.
He has concocted the perfect prenuptial.
The perfect prenuptial.
He's a divorce lawyer in Beverly Hills.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
People in Europe only think this happens in Beverly Hills. They don't actually think that people get married and divorced anywhere else in the world.
No one in Ireland does that.
Oh, those Beverly Hills people got it coming. You know. It's just a kind of a slice of life, you know. Obviously, it's a little push. This is a comedy. The amount of people who've asked me personally if I am going to get divorced and what is actually in my prenuptial agreement, you would never know.
They ask you that?
Oh, sure. Oh, yes. People.
And what do you say?
I say none of your business.
Exactly.
It's the funniest thing, though, when you do a film and you got a great script, you got great directors, you got great actors, and you go to work on it and you do it because that's what you do and you want to do it. And then when you go to sell it and you do a junket and you talk to people, they find something that has some sort of direct correlation to you. Yeah. And it'll be like, so tell us about your marriage. And you're like,
yes.
George, aren't you going to get married soon? And you're like, what do leave me out of this.
Oh yeah.
Pick on me.
And the worst thing was,
my
are
least
you
favorite
like this
subject.
character? The classic question. Are you like Marilyn
Oh, yeah.
Rex Roth?
You've
Same
been
height.
asked that how many times? in
Many
this tour?
times.
Is that right?
Yeah. I know I'm not. I'm not like
course
her.
not.
But that's true. Yeah.
I'm like Marilyn Rick.
yeah.
Are you like Miles?
We are the same height, have the same hair,
Same
Look
eye
alike.
color.
somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah. All right, roll tape. This is a combination of Massey and Marilyn right here, talking about her marriage, attorney and client, or victim.
I could have you disbarred for that.
It was worth it.
A romantic divorce attorney.
You fascinate me.
What did you say about that line?
Every time we said it, we laughed. You could hear these guys cracking up on the screen.
We said a lot on the set by crew people afterwards.
Yeah, you fascinate me.
Totally inappropriate places, yeah.
In doing this, you guys seem like this is a fun thing to do here. I mean, you got this group of actors. You've always had that, though,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you've
as a
always had a
production
kind of
experience,
ensemble group. I mean,
Yeah, it was fun and easy. I mean, the actors were all easy. It was good.
But you have that.
You create that atmosphere.
It's all a family
Nice.
with them. Same crew, same group. So you walk onto that set, and it's really.
It's true, and we
it's
work
easy going.
we work the same crew and frequently the same actors over and over again. And
Same script.
no, you kid about that. But
There's always dialogue there.
it's true. There was a point I remember when we were making Fargo, when Ethan and I turned to each other and we went, "We've shot this scene before, haven't we?" It was when out on the road in Fargo when the car
Oh, right, yeah, it
passes, and
gets
we
caught
thought
with the dead
it's a lot
body.
like something we did in Blood Simple. So in fact, we do recycle the elements of the script.
It's true. If you wait 10 years,
I don't
you can
think we
sell
wanna
the
know
same
this.
thing to the
Yeah.
public.
But it is important to us that the quality of the actual production experience be it's as important to us in doing a movie that we feel like that is going to be a part of it, that's going to be fun, that the production is going to be fun in terms of taking on a project.
What do you ask of your actors?
What do we ask of our actors?
Turn out on time.
Foot massage.
It's getting worse.
I was waxing his back.
But when you want to move to the feet, that's too much.
Ethan has really nice toes.
This directing and producing things pretty good.
Works out.
Yeah, I mean,
Schedule up.
that's what they mean by control, isn't it, George?
Yeah, it is. That's control. Really, they don't ask much of the actors.
It really does. You know, I think we're pretty background in
You
terms
just sort of say
we cast
action and that's it, huh?
Yeah, we
That's what they
Let
hear.
us play.
yeah.
Let us play.
I think it's just a question of, again, you know, if we provide anything, it's sort of an environment where everybody, the actors and the other people working on the movie, feel like they can have fun and work and do the kind of work they want to do.
Yeah, you'd probably
you
be
know?
shocked at how little we talk, well, at least about work stuff with the actors. I mean, you know, we're really, I mean, you know, George and Catherine and all the performers in the movie, they kind of read the script, they get it, and, you know, it's
Well, you chose them because they'd get it.
Yeah.
Well, also, though, you got to remember that there's a difference between doing the kind of stuff that you're trying to do as an actor with Joel and Ethan and with a lot of other directors, which is there is a certain amount of free rein given, but there's also an immense amount of trust because we know the films they make and we know what, you know, in their hands what it could be if you do your job right. So it's a lot easier to take chances with Joel and Ethan than it is with, I don't know that you do sort of the things we were doing with the first-time director. That's a much braver actor.
Well, in fact, you have said you couldn't imagine other people doing what you did in Oh Brothers. So.
Oh, I just couldn't imagine doing it with someone that I didn't really trust, you know, because it would have been, you know, it's scary.
I was so happy to play in your gang. That's what we were talking about this the other day. It was like first day, like, oh my God, I'm like part of this little family here for a little while. And it really is. I mean, I can't explain.
You're entering their world and their family, yeah.
And it really is like a family like that.
Now, are people disappointed who are part of your regulars if they don't get it to do the movie? I mean, Francis?
yeah.
Yes?
Fran is a special case, actually.
Why is that?
Well, you know, Fran is the
a good
classic
question when he's
case of
Yeah, it's a very good question.
my wife, where she'll go right apart for me, right apart for me, right apart for me, and then we will. For instance, when we did on Fargo, and I said, "Okay, here," and she read it and said, "This is it." But it's
Holly Hunter did almost
same thing with Holly. Yeah,
the
it's
exact
like
same thing.
yeah.
Her brother. She said,
Yeah.
she said,
Okay, Holly, do
"You wanna
this.
do
This?
I'll do it.
You know, the first time
I knew it, but I thought more.
Well, the first time I ever met these guys, they had a script that still at some point they've got to do called Suburbicon, and the very first talking I'd ever had with them, or not with them through my agent, was they'd send me this piece for me to play an insurance salesman who comes in for one scene and gets beaten to death with a shovel.
It was a golf club.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Thanks, guys.
Right. I mean, it's a similar reaction. Oh, okay.
But the scene is more involved than that because you drink live first.
George talked about trust. I mean, do you sense that you might not want to do this with other directors because you might not trust them as much as you do
I just wanted
these
to work
guys?
with these guys. You know, I had nothing to go by. I just knew that I just wanted to be part of that experience, and then throw Mr. Clooney into the element, and it's just like, yeah, let's go.
Let's
When?
go. Let's
I'll
do
turn
this.
up.
Now, are you going to make Hail Caesar? Is that going to be made?
I don't know. You
Oh,
gonna make
where'd you read about that? Yeah, we got parts for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Have you really?
got parts for both of these.
Hail
Yeah.
Caesar.
Is that right? You haven't even discussed this with them yet?
No,
they talked to
you
me.
play somebody.
Look,
Yeah.
What am I
No, we would
Selena.
like to make
You're-
that,
It's a
actually.
sandal epic. Did we talk to you about it all?
No, it's good.
It's good.
what?
It's,
A
tell you about it later.
epic.
A sandal epic?
yeah, your character. It's
Oh, it's
Ursulina.
They wanted
It's
me to play
good.
Ursulina.
this is my trilogy of idiots for them.
From Oh Brother to this idiot.
I love the fact you just say, "Oh, we'll speak to you later about it." Okay. Sign me
You've
up.
been thinking about them and you haven't even thought to mention it?
Well, you know, we haven't written it yet. It's kind of speculative.
You know how many offers these guys have? I mean, they're going to be committed through 2010.
Well, let's wait till this film comes out.
Well, do we feel good about this film?
Yeah, I like it. I like
Very
it.
much
I like
so.
it.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, what is it that appeals to you, just simply as a connoisseur of film?
I love the subject matter. I love the chemistry.
Divorce?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think the way
Or
our look on
male-female
it.
battle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way we look at it, and I love the chemistry, and as Joe was saying, I love the pace. I love the fast banter. It's reminiscent of those great on-screen couples, you know. And
Yeah.
it wasn't rehearsed. It was just we just had fun playing with that stuff and the material and the environment in which we could work.
Have you gotten into a kind of image, I mean, this Cary Grant thing, that may be you or may not be you,
Cary
but you...
Grant just went like this in his grave.
Forgive me. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Where this sort of fun-loving guy who loves to enjoy the movie, has a certain elegance, that it is part of your persona.
Well, you know, it's funny. When we did Oh Brother, they kept saying it's Clark Gable, and that's part of your persona. And I
Yeah.
think it's because they're reminiscent of styles of films when those guys did those films. I think that, you know, it does the part, a couple of times the parts I played have looked back and sort of tipped their hat to those guys. But boy, it sure falls short when you go watch His Girl Friday or, you know, films like that. It's a different, those guys just had it. They did it better than anybody.
Well, I think actually it's really true what George is saying. I mean, that the interesting thing about doing Oh Brother was that you sort of immediately and instinctually somehow understood the style of acting that had to be brought to that particular thing, which was more the. And in this being a romantic comedy, it is sort of like Cary Grant, but it's
actually-
less like Cary Grant than it is sort of understanding the appropriate style,
it's flattering.
right, to bring to the piece.
It's not one you can sort of subtly play. You know, it's not one you can kind of underplay this role because it'll just sit there like a, you know.
The proverbial
But
vodka.
But it is a line you have to walk.
No, it is. That's always the scary part. That's why you trust them.
Or you trust them in... What does that mean, you trust them?
Well, because if, you know, and this is actually one Ethan did on Oh Brother. He came over at one point and he said, say it like Popeye. And I go, like Popeye? You know, I'm like, being like, or like, mommy that. He goes, all right.
Corn liquor.
I said the line. And you got to sort of have that very delicate line of going, I'm going to be an ass here if I'm not really careful. And so the reason you do it for them, and if other directors who you didn't have that kind of security with, you wouldn't do it. You'd hedge your bet a little.
You'd do it for David Russell.
Yeah, I do it for Steven Soderbergh.
You would? Of course
Sure.
you would.
You bet.
Is romantic comedy harder than everything else? You know,
It's the hardest to
because
find.
It's the hardest to find a role that
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
worth.
the quintess. You know, the romantic comedy. It's very saccharine, a lot of it. And I've always wanted to do it like a romantic comedy, and this was the best way to do it for me.
Everybody does. I
This
think
is
they
much
all
more
don't
fun.
you?
They're very hard to find.
Yeah, most actors want to do it. I mean, there's something about it that is appealing
But
to.
the problem is that they always end the same,
It's
or
a
almost
Cinderella
always.
story
Because
for one or the
here's
other.
the problem: is you meet cute, and you know at the end of it, they're going to be together.
Exactly.
You just know it.
Yeah.
So you have it's the journey, and whether the journey's enjoyable. There have been a few films in the last few years that have turned it on its ear, but not many, and it's hard to do it. So it's hard to find a good one.
You learn anything about directing by watching these guys?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so. Obviously,
No, I stole shots from them when I did
Well,
Confessions.
but you steal shots from
Everybody.
Well, you know.
Well, they told me to steal, so I did.
Do like we do.
They gave you a license to steal.
No, they literally said, we stole that one. I showed them a shot in a film that I did, and I said, I stole that from you, and they go, we stole that.
We stole it from Billy Wilder. You stole it from us.
It's got a very illustrious pedigree. You were in Lake Como with George?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
I read
That
this
was my
story,
husband.
George. This is
Yeah. Nice, huh?
I like the one inside. It's that just the funny photograph of you jumping in like this. Just cracks
there's
me
a
up.
picture of you jumping in the water.
Yeah,
Speaking
and it
of-
was
speaking
really
of
cold,
Popeye.
right?
Okay. But here's
that
my
was
question.
Popeye.
I read something where the typical day when you're on vacation, you get up in the morning, you go on the boat, you
Yeah.
come back, you think about what you want for lunch, you have lunch. In the afternoon, you go out and you do something. Then you talk about dinner, decide what you want to have dinner. You go to dinner, and you come back, and you watch a movie.
Yeah, then you screen a movie. That's
That's
my
about
life,
it?
basically.
What else would you want to do in Lake Como? I mean, what else do people do?
What else are you doing? Wait, I don't know.
It was great. It was great for me. I'm going to go back and think about lunch. They do it right in Italy, I got to say.
I tell you.
Then why did you decide to buy that house in Italy?
It was an opportunity that came up. It was a house I was aware of and I'd been to, and it was just one of the most beautiful places I'd ever seen.
It
and
is.
they were-
It is? You think it is, too?
It's exquisite.
Now,
yeah.
what is exquisite about it?
I don't,
Is
Location
it sun, the
is
water, and
exquisite.
the
The location
whole,
is exquisite.
the hillside, and all that?
The character of it.
food, wine, people, everything about it. It's
Yeah,
great.
and it feels like a house that's it's a fun house. You know, it's a good spirited house.
Yeah.
Are you at the point where you get in? How many scripts are you reading at one time? I mean, do you read
No,
for every?
not many.
Really?
No, I'm waiting for my
You're
son.
waiting for Hail Caesar. No, I mean, come on. I mean, after Chicago and after this,
No, yeah, after Chicago,
everybody wanted you to dance again.
yeah, which is the thing with musicals. When they're good, they're great. When they're bad, they're horrid.
Yeah.
And then that genre of film gets put to bed for a while. I know what I'm
But
doing
that was
next.
great for you,
I
though,
never
because you had that.
Oh,
I mean, you were
God,
the
to
one
put that
person in
on
that
film.
cast who.
to do that on film for me was, I couldn't believe I had the chance to do it. It was an amazing experience. But I think the only time I've ever known when I'm making the movie what I'm doing next is when you guys gave me a call. So
The reason I ask that is that I'm always surprised how many sequels are being made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is that, George?
How many sequels are
Yeah,
being made?
rather than new
there's
material.
there's a certain amount of...
I don't mean just sequels like something one, but old movies that they're,
70s
you know.
movies.
they-
Oh, you mean retreads, too, yes.
What do you call those?
I don't know.
Remakes.
Remakes, that's a better word.
depending on how good the film
Right,
is.
But why is that? I mean, that
No new ideas, probably.
yeah.
We have.
But why no new ideas would be the follow-up.
You're right. Well, I'll tell you. I think
the
because
economics of it,
Yeah,
it's a
it's expensive to
safer
make
bet.
Yeah.
You know, it's on
So
a
the money
mass
people are looking
market.
for a safer bet, anything that can
So
hedge
we
the bet they
applaud.
want.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say.
these
There's
guys
a
are
really-
shooting the
there's
lady
a
killers
really-
right now. So
Oh, there you go. That was what,
really good,
1955 or something?
I was going to say, a really great Alec Guinness movie of the mid-50s
That
it
should
would
never be remade.
pointless to remake that we just finished shooting.
Well, why did you want to do it?
Well, it had lack of ideas.
Nothing like being truthful.
It's like when someone asked Robert Mitchum once to what he attributed the length of his 50-year marriage, and he said, lack of imagination.
That's good. You once said about dating, rather than being married, you could always start over.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Start again.
You know, you can try new things.
That's right. Recreate yourself.
be more,
New-
be more
a new
imaginative.
date.
Exactly.
What are you going to do next?
The Lady Killers.
That is,
cutting
you
Lady
finished, so you'll
yeah,
cut that.
Yeah, we're cutting that, and it's.
And we'll get around to Hail Caesar later.
Hail
Around
Caesar,
Hail
yeah.
Caesar eventually, yeah.
You're doing Terminal with
I'm doing Terminal
With
with,
Tom?
Stephen and Tom
and Tom.
Hanks. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That's
Yeah,
tough.
it's tough, you know, working with an actor like that.
Bunch of hacks, really.
And you,
Yeah,
sir?
right across CNN. George Clooney calls Steven Spielberg a hack. Next thing I do is a sequel.
Ocean 12?
See, there you go.
Well, listen,
know.
after Solaris and Confessions,
We got to pay for Lake Como.
Well, I gotta work. Got a job. You know.
All right, let's see one more clip here. This is where the two of you have dinner. These are all about Miles and Marilyn. Here it is.
He says you've been too successful, you're bored, complacent, and you're on your way down.
But you don't think so.
How do you know?
Why would you be here?
Why did you ask me?
Can't I be curious?
About what?
Do you ever answer questions?
To you?
I'll have the tornadoes of beef. The lady will have the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I assume you're a carnivore.
Oh, Mr. Massey, you have no idea.
Thank you all. It's great to
Thank
have
you.
you here.
Nice to see you.
It's terrific. The movie is called Intolerable Cruelty. Thank you for joining us. See you next time. Why did you want to do this film?
You know, largely the actors, they wanted to do it. It was a script that originally, we actually wrote it or rewrote it. We're hired just as a writing job to write it several years ago with no idea of doing it ourselves. But then we found out George was interested in doing it, so that sort of, if we were interested, which, you know, in itself made us interested in doing it
You know,
ourselves.
with us, it's always if the right combination comes together. We wrote the script as Ethan said, as a writing job, but we always liked the script a lot. And when we sort of discovered that George was interested in doing it, that made us interested in making it because we just felt it was the right.
I am pleased to have here the filmmakers Ethan and Joel Coen, and the film stars George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Welcome. It's great to
Thank
see
you.
Thanks.
Is this a black comedy? Is this a farce? Is this a screwball comedy? Is this what?
I wouldn't call it a black comedy. It's
It's a comedy.
Yeah, it is more like a screwball comedy because it's, you know, like the classic screwball comedies were usually about marriage, and this is about divorce. But there's some marriages that happen, and you know, in
There are
between
quite
the
a few.
divorces. So, yeah.
The new film by the Coen brothers is called Intolerable Cruelty. It is a romantic comedy marked with trademark Coen dark humor. Here is the trailer for the film.
Who the hell are you?
Howard and I are planning to marry.
Dump him.
I could have you disbarred for that.
You fascinate me.
Intolerable Cruelty.
People with the right material.
If you were interested in doing it, why didn't you buy it for yourself?
Well, it was already done. It was already out there, and they'd actually written the draft, and then it had gone through several different hands and been rewritten, which is what usually happens. And when I talked to Universal, I said I'm interested in that old draft that they wrote, which is sometimes hard to get back to, which is the draft that is what got everybody excited about it initially, and that was part of the trick. And getting Catherine was a big part of the trick.
Who is it you play?
I play Marilyn Rexroth.
Yes. Who is a gold digger?
Yes, but a nice gold
And a
digger.
revenge artist?
Yes, and a serial divorcee. And many, it's a living for her.
It's a living for
It's a
her.
living. It's a
And
business. It's
you got to
very-
work at
it's
something, so you might as well work at
Exactly.
marriage and divorce.
And that's her. But I wanted to play her nice. I wanted everyone. I mean, there must be a reason why people just fall in love with her and just like push the boat out that far. So I wanted to play it calm and like a hurricane.
Calm like a hurricane.
Yeah, the eye of the storm doesn't quite realize what chaos she can create,
Yeah.
and she does.
And gets her revenge.
Yes, because she meets her.
Yeah. And that's the movie. That's when the movie starts. When these two get together to
Yeah.
compete.
That's what I think.
But my role, my character.